I ended up in Sedona, Arizona. One day I was sitting at a computer, and the computer kept crashing. I knew it was static electricity, so I put a piece of tape across my desk and grounded it. Then I realized in that process that the outlet wasn't grounded, so I fixed it so that I could get rid of the static electricity. I didn't think too much about it. I walked outdoors and I sat on a bench. This tour bus pulled up, and it looked like they had just been to one of these outlet malls, and white Nike shoes were on sale. It just dawned on me. I asked the question. I said, I wonder if it's possible that humans are, we're no longer naturally grounded. I wonder if these shoes could be interfering with us. So that night I went to the hardware store and I bought a roll of metal duct tape. And I just taped it across the bed. I threw a wire out the window and it had a ground rod outside. I connected to the ground rod on one side and connected to the metal duct tape that I had laid on the bed. So when I laid down on the duct tape, I was like grounded because it was connected to the earth. And I woke up the next morning and I thought, holy cow, there's something going on here, because normally for me to go to sleep, I had to take Advil. So I tried to find out what I could. The internet was hardly anything. This was back in '99. I went down to the University of Arizona into one of their medical libraries, and there was nothing. And in fact, I even tried to find the cause of chronic pain. The cause of MS was unknown. The cause of arthritis, unknown. They didn't know. Nobody knew. So I thought, well, I'll go out to LA. I'll go to UCLA and ask them. They pretty much laughed me off campus. They said, you expect us to believe that somebody's going to put a nail in the ground, tie a wire around somebody's toe, and it's going to make them sleep better? They said, get out of here. Go away. You're nuts. So I ended up having to put together my own study. I found an anesthesiologist in San Diego. And he says, I don't think there's anything to what you're doing. There's got to be an anomaly here. But I'll entertain you. He says, I will prove that you're wrong. And we grounded 60 people, and the reports that came in were unbelievable. TMJ disappeared, PMS disappeared, inflammation reduced, pain. Everybody slept better. It's the first study that I did that was a legitimate study where we had quantifiable data. When they saw the study, everybody said, well, this is really pretty interesting. And we ended up attracting scientists, physicists.
Like any important discovery, nobody was interested. They thought he was crazy. Now there are a lot of scientists who are interested. Researchers, MDs, MD PhDs, PhDs like me. I'm very interested in biological questions. Earthing brings up some really profound biological questions.
While these grounding studies were positive, what was grounding actually doing inside the human body? The answer may surprise you.
Stephen Sinatra, who was a cardiologist from back east, was attending a convention, and we sat down with Stephen and told him the story of what I was doing. He said, well, if you're affecting pain, he says, you need to be researching inflammation. You don't have arthritis, you don't have cancer, you don't have all these health disorders. What you have is chronic inflammation. To me at the time, inflammation was you sprain an ankle and it balloons up and gets red and it's sore and it's inflamed. And he says, no, he says, inflammation is different than that.
We have so much inflammation in the body, and it comes out in illnesses. We go to a doctor with all these complaints, but a lot of it is silent inflammation, including my specialty, heart disease. Heart disease is an inflammatory process. So how do we reduce inflammation?
The most abundant protein in the body is collagen. It's the building block of our tissues. And we have gazillions of collagen molecules in our bodies. They are all embedded in a gel. This gel has a huge surface area, and it absorbs electrons and releases them when you have an injury.
Inflammation is produced by neutrophils, which is a white blood cell. You have an injury, you have a damaged cell. And so these white blood cells come over and they encapsulate the damaged cell and they release reactive oxygen species, which rip electrons from the damaged cell, and that destroys the damaged cell.
White blood cells release free radicals at the injury site. They chew up any pathogens, bacteria, or dead cells. They clear the area. It's called the repair field. It's the place that needs to be repaired. Without earthing, some of the free radicals that are released into the repair field leak into the surrounding tissue.
If there's not enough free electrons there to reduce the remaining radicals, they're going to steal an electron from a healthy cell and in the process damage it. Then the message goes out to the immune system and another neutrophil does the same thing, eliminates that cell, and then you end up with a chain reaction.
And this can create chronic inflammation, silent inflammation. You may not even know it's there, and it continues for years.
If inflammation is the cause of all these health disorders, then I know that not enough grounding is the cause of inflammation, because if the body is grounded, you can't have inflammation.
The initial grounding studies showed promise, but there was still a big question. Was grounding really achieving these results in the human body, or was it something else? A placebo effect of some kind?
I am Senior Research Medical Scientist at North American Science Associates. I spent about 10 years working in the environmental area, 5 of those at the Environmental Protection Agency. And in 1980, I started working at the Food and Drug Administration, where I led a team of biostatisticians, and we reviewed clinical trials for new medical devices. I would guess that approximately 10% of the medical devices that FDA sees from inception would end up getting approval at the end of the day. So I would review them very critically. A couple of years ago, my 92-year-old mother was suffering from peripheral artery disease, and that would require them to do an intervention. They would go in and have to clean out her femoral artery, put in a balloon or stent. They usually have to go in every 6 or 9 months to clean out the artery. And I felt at that age they couldn't keep doing this. I tried most everything, and I was looking around and I saw this thing on earthing, that earthing might be helpful for peripheral artery disease. And I said, well, it's not going to hurt her. I don't think it will really help her. So I purchased her an earthing sheet and had her sleep on it for one night. She was also having trouble hitting a forehand, and this is a lady who had played tennis for 70 years, and she just couldn't remember how to hit it. Next day, she had no trouble. So I said, there's definitely something here. In all my years in the medical device field, I had never seen any responses like this for any device or any drug. She's now 94. We play tennis 5 or 6 times a week. She leads a fully active life, cleans her house, does pretty much everything for herself. And we attribute this to the earthing.
It's done a great deal. I was having problems, well, with my legs. It was hard for me to walk, and I was quite certain I would never be able to play tennis and do other things that I wanted to do. And it improved greatly, and I went back to playing tennis. Not as good as before, but pretty good anyway. It just changed my life. I didn't have the worries that I had before that something bad might happen if I kept trying to do things. I should just go ahead and try everything.
This is the biggest development I've seen in the medical field in my 5 decades in public health and my 3 decades in the clinical trial field and medical devices. I just have a hard time believing this is a placebo effect.
You need electrons for energy. It's called the electron transport chain in mitochondria. It generates adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. It's the energy molecule in the body. I tell athletes that before an event, stand 15 minutes in your bare feet on the grass, and you will charge up your electron stores. And should you fall down, and athletes fall down, you will not have inflammation at all.
If you could think about the last time you were barefoot, like in nature, it probably wasn't very recently, you know?
Can you walk us through it? What is the, let's earth.
Yeah,
What is my
let's
first step?
take the shoes off, take the shoes off.
I first learned about grounding maybe 12, 13 years ago through one of the trainers for the Tour de France team from the US, and he was using it with many of their athletes and with surprising results. And I think this surprising best summarizes my response to it because it didn't seem to make sense. I think I became a believer once I started to explore the science. ATP is short for adenosine triphosphate. It's the energy currency of the cell. We're a bioelectrical being. That's the currency of our body. That's how it works. That's how we run our biological systems, is by generating this electrical energy that's transferred. And when we connect to the Earth through a conductive surface in some way, there's a transfer of electrons that slowly go into our body.
We tried to figure out how much charge the body takes in when you touch the Earth. What happens is the body saturates with electrons practically instantaneously. It's so fast that you can't measure it. So electrons from the Earth enter the body right away, and they coat the red blood cells so that the cells repel each other. And then they can't clump, and the blood viscosity goes down. It's easier for the heart to pump the blood pressure goes down, all kinds of cardiovascular issues, they go away.
In situations where we are insulating ourselves from this a surplus of electrons into our body, we're going to get the absolute opposite. So instead of having low levels of inflammation and a thin blood, we'll have thick blood that's more likely to clot, and our levels of inflammation tend to increase.
And I'm just thinking on the way here, I was thinking about how maybe the thinning of the blood is the reason that all the physiological systems go into balance.
Of all the grounding studies, the one that really got our attention is called Electric Grounding Improves Vagal Tone in Preterm Infants. In the study, 26 premature babies in an NICU were connected to grounding wires. The heart rates of the grounded infants stabilized, and their vagal tone, a critical measure of infant health, increased by 67% with grounding.